Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift, here with Benji for the recaps of Paris-Nice Stage 4, Tirreno-Adriatico Stage 3, and also Remco Evenepoel losing his license for a couple of weeks at the end of this podcast. But first, Paris-Nice, the time trial, it was hillier and the hills were steeper than people thought from Domerat to Montluçon. It's 13 Ks, 200 meters elevation. There's two main climbs. The last climb is 800 meters, 7% to the finish line, which was quite steep. You needed to conserve energy for that part of this course. And as a reminder, today, the Tour of Watopia starts. 5 stages of riding on Zwift with 5 new routes, unlocks, and double XP, so your efforts help you level up twice as quickly. But it's going for the next few days. So if you can't get onto the first stage today, there's other stages. I'm going on at 8 p.m. tonight. There's rides going off at regular intervals to match your time. And as always, thanks to Zwift for supporting the podcast. But yeah, Van Aert took out this time trial, taking another stage when you know we don't bury the lead on the TTs. Roglič second on 2 seconds, Dennis third on 6, Jumbo-Visma 1, 2, 3, then Küng, Yates, Hayter, Latour, Bissegger, Pedersen, and Martinez, all about 11 to 25 seconds behind. Jumbo 1, 2, 3, Benji. That's Cervelo, and their setup must be pretty fast.
Yeah, certainly. It's another great team performance, not necessarily in team formation as it's individual, but it does show that the team is getting something right when it comes to the equipment and also when it comes to the engineering, I think, in regards to the aero and so forth. We know that one guy, Bert Blocken and so forth, makes 3D versions of every single one of the important Jumbo cyclists for time trials, and turns out that's helping out because they're getting results out of this, and it isn't the first time that this is happening. We've seen solid TT results from Jumbo-Visma and Jumbo-Visma riders throughout the entirety of the last 2 years, except for Plage de Belleville, where it didn't go right perfectly. But in this situation, it did. And then at the Olympics last year, also a pretty solid performance by riders that were on the Jumbo team as well at that point. So the equipment's right, that's clear. And then you look at certain other teams, and it's visible that there's such a difference between Jumbo and the way they prepare for time trials versus, for example, a Cofidis or an Arkea, for example. We see that Nairo Quintana is probably having, honestly, a terrible time trial, in my personal opinion. He's losing a significant amount of time on this time trial. Was 42 seconds down at the first intermediate, if I recall correctly, and then at the end 117. In an ideal world, if he wants to compete for a GC, or he needs to stay within, 45 seconds max? It's still too much on paper.
Yeah, it's still a lot. The problem is, and he lost so much on the flatter, faster section. You look at his side profile; he's like in a 1995 position. He's got no stack; it's so low, and you can visibly see like the gap between his hands and head is a foot, and he's not trying to get low. That's I guess the argument we had about should time trial bikes be banned. I would argue that with Arkea should have enough money that he can get a better position than that and go just a little bit faster. Like, because even if at the Giro, Benji, if he did it, like, you can't lose that much time. You need to be somewhat there or thereabouts. Bahrain too, their setup is no good, and it just makes a huge difference. Jumbo's looks the quickest. FDJ with Küng is dialed. Weird though, Benji. We'll get to the splits and the details in a second, but David Gaudu did this TT in 20 minutes. Wout Van Aert did it in 16:20. He lost 3 minutes 40. He's clearly not right. Like, why is he here?
He crashed 2 days ago, and yesterday I think he finished quite late as well on the stage, although I don't 100% know. Like, I saw him dropping on one of the climbs yesterday where he said, "I'm completely done for, mate," to the camera. And the day before he finished, I think, last on stage 2 as well. Was that the day he crashed? Yeah, last, 10 minutes behind the friend of the race. So, I don't know, perhaps it's at a point where he's just riding it to finish stages, and if you need to do that in Paris-Nice, you might as well be better in recovery, I would say. because I feel like it's probably not great to be finishing this race if you're not exactly on point.
I mean, we saw Thibaut Pinot finish the 2020 Tour de France with a bad back after stage 1 when he crashed. How did that work out for everyone? Was that a good idea? No. I mean, and this isn't even the Tour. I get it. Like, if you crash on stage 19 and you want to finish the Tour, soldier through, come on, it's Paris-Nice. Like, maybe you'll prove us wrong and win the Turini stage from the break. But if that's not the target, then this is a waste of time and he should be recovering at home. So, yeah, that's just a note. It's weird. He nearly finished outside the time limit today.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in terms of pacing, Simon Yates did a big positive split. He was the fastest to the intermediate, which was a 48 km/h average, and then 9th on the second section. And he sort of ran out of gas on the final climb. But he's whipped a TT out like this before at Paris-Nice, Benji. I didn't remember it, but then I was like, oh, it made sense. Is he Roglic's closest rival now, or is that Wout for GC here?
I don't think there's actual competition for Roglic in this race anymore. I'm going to be honest about that. I don't think anyone can remotely beat Roglic here unless he crashes again on the final stage, which I hope doesn't happen because I don't like when riders lose because they crash. The thing is, you're right, Van Aert is up there as well. And when we look at GC, which is now Van Aert taking that yellow with Roglic in second on 10 seconds, and Laporte, who also did a decent time trial, to be honest, on 28 seconds. Laporte is the clear outlier there who won't be there after the mountain stage, I would dare to say. When it comes to Van Aert and Roglic, like, you can play both cards in the coming stages, but do they need to? That is the question. Because last year at Tirreno, Van Aert was going all out on the mountain stage and so forth, and later they publicly mentioned that they kind of regretted doing that because it might have had an influence on his form in the more important races, the classics that came later. And now I've got the feeling that he's always going hard in this Paris-Nice as well, which means that, is it really better than at Tirreno last year? Or is it because his form currently is not at the level that he was during Tirreno last year, you think, that they allowed this to happen in preparation of the classics?
I don't know. I don't know what the grand plan is. I see mixed messages all the time. I don't know whether Wout's joking anymore. He's getting more jokey with the English press. I think he's like, oh, I could maybe go for GC, see how the time trial goes. Like, I don't know what to think anymore. I think it's still for Roglic. I mean, it depends. We've seen reports that Turini, the mountaintop finish on stage 7, it might be snowy conditions. If that gets cancelled,
Laporte!
nah. It's stage 8's harder than last year. I think Wout then becomes the favourite for GC. If Turini gets cancelled, Greg Van Avermaet, Tirreno Adriatico, GC win style. But Dennis, actually, like, I kind of expect you picked him, Benji, mainly because I picked Roglic. I thought Wout was a little bit banged up, but he's beaten Küng here by 4 seconds on a hilly course. Really nice TT from him. If you make it 50 minutes or an hour, he's looking even better, probably. I think that was really good. Any other performances that stood out? Hayter obviously has good legs. Latour good. Martinez beat Vlasov. Any others that stood out? Yates was a little bit under for me.
Adam Yates or Simon Yates?
Adam.
Okay, yeah.
Whichever one rode in the Ineos skid suit.
We don't know. They look the same. Yeah, Adam was a bit of an underperformance. You're right, 19th on 43 seconds, but it's also not the end of the world necessarily. It's an average time trial, I'd argue. And not a good time trial, not a bad time trial, an average one. And then I look at Ethan Hayter, who performed better than we expected a decent time for Hayter based on his 2 time trials at Algarve and Bessèges. So it's kind of on par with what I expected. The outliers for me in the top 10 is perhaps that Latour is acting or riding better than expected this entire year so far. Got 4th in Bessèges, 5th in Provence, and now is solidly on his way to perhaps getting a top 5 in this Paris-Nice if he continues like this. because I'm pretty sure he's high up in GC as well. He has 5th at the moment on 51 seconds. So if he can continue that, that might be possible. If Turini happens, that might become an issue to get that top 5, but a top 10 seems to be in the cards for him quite certainly. And then the question is, what is this team Total Energy going to want to do with him? And I think they're going to want to focus on GCs even in Grand Tours with him so that they can gain extra points in top 10 or, well, probably top 15 positions in GC, because the top 10 with Latour is a bit difficult, I'd
Welter
argue.
he can.
Yeah.
Good TT, shallow climbs.
Yeah.
I think top 10.
Yeah.
If he rides the way, if I'm controlling his radio, he could top 10. if he's doing his stuff, then maybe not.
Yeah, that's true. When it comes to Bissegger, so we see a shorter time trial. Is it the hills that do it for him, the bottleneck?
Yeah. I'm not surprised where he finished up. I am. He finished 8th, but it's on 21 to Wout. I thought Küng was underrated again. Küng was $4.50 head-to-head against Bissegger. Outrageous disrespect. And I think he's a fast CDA boy. And I know he won this TT last year very narrowly ahead of Cavagna, who got robbed by, I think, the Alpecin car in the last finishing straight. This is a higher level competition here. Look at the top 4. Van Aert, Roglič, Dennis, Küng. And with the extra climbing, it's harder than last year. I think the hills were an issue. Pedersen, good TT. He's focusing, of course, on that TT in the Tour. He's hoping to stay close and then take bonus seconds in later sprints or stage 5. Otherwise, I just the have and have nots like Ion Izagirre, Benji. He won the Dauphiné Hilly TT last year, and he's 28th on a minute.
It's not looking great at the moment. And he's the kind of rider that Cofidis gets to do well in GC and top 10 positions to gain points, but it's not working like this. And next to that, I feel like it's Cofidis in general. We joked last year that perhaps Max Walscheid could go to the team and teach them a bit about aero, but I've got the feeling that it's actually necessary that he teaches the team a bit about aero, because their positions as well are not what looks like a position in time trials that get you a good time. And their riders are not always the best time trialists. Guillaume Martin is known as a pretty bad time trialist compared to the average of a pro cyclist, but it's part of that. It's part of getting good results as GC riders. So the team needs to focus that if they want to achieve that. But when it comes to UAE, we've noticed that McNulty had that crash. His performances have not been amazing as a consequence. And then we have Almeida, who's currently sitting in 30-16 GC on 318. Part of that being the obvious echelon deficit that he took there. But his time trial was also not that great. 22nd on 47 seconds. I expect more from a man like Almeida here. What do you think we need to conclude outside of a Paris for a rider like that, knowing that he's riding GC in the Giro? Or is this not really a thing that concludes anything?
I don't know. I think both McNulty and Almeida look like they don't want to be here, to be honest. They're over it. And I think 2-3 hard days, one of which is just getting your ass kicked in echelons for 3 hours, can really make people feel the morale a bit low. And I don't know. But whether that affected the TT, I'm not sure exactly. But GC, Jumbo in huge control. Van Aert 10 seconds ahead of Roglič. He takes the jersey off Laporte, and they're still 1, 2, 3. Yates on 49 to Wout Van Aert, 39 to Roglič. Then it's Latour, Pedersen, Martinez, Vlasov on a minute 9. Bissegger, Kraj Andersen, Hagues on a minute 45. So there's huge gaps to most of the GC guys. Quintana's on 145 to Roglič. Tomorrow's stage, pretty hard. 189 Ks from Saint-Just, Saint-Rambert to Saint-Savot-de-Montaigu. And it is hilly. They start with, in the first 20 Ks, a 9.6K, 6.5% climb to establish the break. And then it's flat to downhill. Then 114 Ks in, another 6.5K, 7.5% climb. Then little roller. And then another 7.5K, 8% climb with 34 Ks left, descent, and then a 5K, 5% climb, descent to the finish Wout Van Aert could win this stage if they pace. But I think this is break. We have so many guys on so much time. I'd be expecting, if Godu's not in the break tomorrow with McNulty and others, I'd be surprised. Why would Jumbo pace the break hard, Benji?
I don't really see a point to that, depending on whether there's a dangerous rider in there, of course. But they've got quite an advantage in GC, so it's not like there's... Unless a GC rider is in there, they're probably not going to start pacing too extremely. And then the question is, what are the opponents going to do? And then I look at riders like a Mauri van Stevenant, for example, to jump in a breakaway, stuff like that. I don't know what Movistar has when it comes to trying to get in breakaways. I think Izagirre is here. Jurgensen crashed, I think, at some point, but I'm not sure how his form is now. So potentially a breakaway rider if he's relatively okay. Mühlberger, same question. Or was that rider that crashed out? Or was that the other Austrian? Großschartner. Was Großschartner, yes.
Großschartner, yeah.
yes. Nelson Paulus? Is that, or is he too close in GC? Probably.
I mean, where is he? I feel like he lost a lot of time in crosswinds. He's 43rd on GC on 354. That's just the worst spot.
Yeah.
Because same with Guillaume Martin. He's on 320. Almeida's on 318. You can't get a good GC result anymore. But Jumbo will be like, can you not get in the break?
Storm, 18 minutes down.
He looks terrible, though. Like, you want to lose some time, but you don't want to be like getting dropped in the early stages because you're unwell.
Okay.
I like Vine for tomorrow. And
okay.
Who else? Who else has looked kind of good? Has anyone attacked? Søren Kragh?
Good question. I think I'm going to go for an outsider pick. And I'm going to say the winner of tomorrow's stage will be Rein Taramay, despite only being on 414 in GC.
I reckon they'll let Taramay get in the break. I'm trying to look. Simon Carr, so he's a decent option. Matthew Holmes will probably be in the break. Hayter. There's a lot of guys. I'm expecting a big break to form. McNulty, Carl Friedrich Hagen, all these guys. Geschke, Mader. He's on 9 minutes. Yeah. If he gets in the break, Jumbo will pace. Wild Poles? All right, it's going to be a break, 100%. Yeah. Why would Jumbo burn themselves, Chase? But will another team?
A third 1, 2, 3. Like, it's possible. True. Why not?
Will Quintana tell RK to pace?
Like, why would he pace the entire stage if he can just let the break win and still try and gain time?
True. Exactly. Yeah. All right. We think break's winning. That means probably Roglič and Wout 1-2 in the finish. But yeah, that was Paris stage 4. Big or exciting medium mountain stage tomorrow. Now on to Tirreno Adriatico.